A challenging year for the restaurant industry is wrapping up, and a hard winter remains ahead. Joining us now to talk through some of the impacts and challenges facing this sector going forward is Dennis Geiger. He is an analyst over at UBS covering the restaurant space. So Dennis, let's just begin with some trends we've seen early in this winter. Things, I think, troublingly starting to look a bit like the spring, and maybe how you're kind of anticipating that might play out and ripple through the restaurant space.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays. Thanks for having me. We would say for sure, while we've seen a really strong recovery since the spring for the restaurant industry, both the quick service names and the casual dining names, certainly as we've gone into the fall and then winter now has started, we certainly have seen a step back in trends, colder weather, COVID case spikes, a bit more uncertainty out there. And I think you're likely to see things still get worse before they get better over the coming months.
And you guys have done some survey work that has been interesting on whether people are planning to go out to restaurants, right? Which I think is sort of illustrative for what the industry can expect going forward. And what's interesting here, too, is that, there's this sort of stubborn group of people, not stubborn to say that they're stubborn, but meaning it hasn't changed very much in terms of the number of people who are not going to eat at restaurants and the number of people who are going to eat at restaurants, right? That those folks are kind of entrenched where they are at the sort of halfway point, or half of the people you surveyed. What do you make of those results?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think it's a good point. If we look again from the spring, certainly we've seen a greater willingness on the part of the consumer to be willing to go out and dine out. Certainly that peaked probably over the summer, and again as we went into the fall and winter, it looks like COVID case spikes and the negative headlines that are out there, folks have become a bit more apprehensive. My suspicion is as the closer we get to the vaccine, as more people, more folks start to get vaccinated, as state restrictions start to come in, my sense is that's probably going to inflect higher. The willingness to go out and dine out is going to inflect higher. But again, I don't know that we expect a major change in that trend over the coming months, particularly as the headlines are unlikely to get a whole lot better anytime real soon.
Dennis, when McDonald's reports in a couple weeks, are they going to blow away fourth quarter earnings estimates because of the McRib's popularity?
So I would say for McDonald's, about a little bit under half of the business is the U.S. I think you're going to see some really strong sales trends within the U.S. still, and the sales trends have been good in recent quarters. Our sense from talking to different owner operators across the McDonald's system is the McRib probably drove a modest few point acceleration in sales trends, which were about mid-single digit in October and probably November. So you're probably seeing some good U.S. trends. Europe's going to be a little bit weaker given some of the lockdowns there. So I do think though McDonald's has done a nice job driving sales with the McRib with better marketing. There's going to be a good catalyst path into the first part of at least in the first part of 2021. So from a sales perspective, we think there's going to be some pretty good numbers that you're going to see from them.
And have we reached peak Popeyes chicken sandwich? I don't have to tell you, but the Popeyes sales numbers each quarter this year have blown it out of the water because of this sandwich. Where do things go from here next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously we saw tremendous results, 30-40% up in sales year on year as that sandwich rolled out, for the 12 months following that rollout. So really the question now for Popeyes becomes, what do they do from here? Can they build on that? And we think they probably can. We're not going to see those same type of numbers going forward, but we think the sales volumes that they've driven with that sandwich are likely sustainable, and you can start to grow from there. Certainly against some of the really big numbers that we're going to be lapping, you could see a little bit of softness, but we think by and large a lot of those gains they've made are going to be here to stay. And what's going to be interesting now across the industry is what happens as McDonald's launches a new chicken sandwich in the earlier part of 2021. Burger King coming out with its version, under the same umbrella as Popeyes under restaurant brands. So we think those are going to be real needle movers for a couple of those brands. And there's not necessarily going to be a saturation. If the sandwiches are good, we think it's going to drive traffic. We think it's going to drive sales.
And then Dennis, very quickly before we let you go, every national restaurant chain that we've talked to, they all say, we really feel for our smaller partners, but they've gained a lot of market share. They're going to have a lot of real estate they can go acquire if they want to. Do you think that they're going to go out and sort of snap up all these closed restaurants, especially in cities where it's been kind of a challenge, for some restaurants to maybe get as much footprint as they want?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think for some of the larger chains that we're talking about here, there are going to be real estate opportunities, relocation opportunities into some real estate sites that have closed as small and independent chains have struggled and perhaps closed. So we're not expecting, I wouldn't say, a major acceleration necessarily in store growth. We think in the later part of 2021, you could get back to some of the similar store growth levels for some of these larger chains that we saw in 2019. I think that's kind of how we're thinking about it. The franchisees across these large brands are healthy. They're generally looking to grow. There might be some uncertainty early in the year, but after that, we think you're going to see a decent amount of growth returning again from a store growth perspective.
All right, Dennis Geiger with UBS. Really interesting conversation. Dennis, have a great new year, and hopefully we can talk in 2021.
Thanks, guys. Have a happy new year.